Welcome back, gear nerds, to another nerdy gear demo. This time I've got the OTO Bim from a company called OTO, I think they're called OTO Machines in France. This is one of, I think, two or three machines they've got. They've got a Bim Bam Boom. See what they did there. The Bim is a delay machine. And you probably know, if you're looking at these videos, that this kind of a delay is aimed at the synthesizer, EDM, experimental, I don't know, computer music crew, not really us guitar players. But a few guitar players have tried it out, and notably, I think it's Dan on that pedal show thinks this is an interesting pedal. And to be honest, I think it's an interesting pedal. It's definitely different. It's certainly not designed for guitar players. So if you want something straightforward, don't get this. It sounds pretty good, but don't get it if you just want something basic. You need to be a proper nerd if you're going to get a pedal like this. So what does it do? It's supposed to be a throwback to 12-bit digital delays from the 70s and 80s. Blah, 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 blah. It's a little bit lo-fi. It has a bunch of analog stuff going on in the audio processing. To be honest, I'm not sure I really care about all of that. It sounds pretty good. I just played some demo sounds in the intro to this video. I think you'll agree there are some interesting sounds in here. Let's go over some of the features, because some of the features of this thing are not really all that great. The first thing I have to mention, OTO, is that the power supply for this is 15 volts and it's center positive. Wow. Now, I'm feeling all smug here because I've got a Chiox DC7 and it does have a 15 volt output, but most of us don't have 15 volt outputs, and of course, being center positive, that's just another pain in the butt to get an adapter to be center positive. It has a MIDI in, no MIDI out, so if you've got a MIDI set up, you're going to have to put this on the end or do something else, and it's stereo in and out. I don't think it makes the most of all of the stereo options, but yes, you can definitely hear some stereo stuff coming out of it. Knobs on the front, well, you'll see later on in the demo, but basically, in the detailed knob tweaking, basically these knobs are very nice to feel, very tactile. They don't do anything. There are 6 knobs. Basically, these five knobs are all fixed, and there's one knob that's a data knob, and then that changes depending on which button you press down here on the screen. The screen is not fantastically easy to read, you'll see in the demo. In fact, I'll probably put it up on the screen now. It's not fantastically easy to read. And although the lights are bright and everything, for example, there are sort of different segments along here as to which item you're selecting, but there's no scale. So you have to kind of guess, am I on 4 or am I on 5? I'm not sure. Now, most of the time it's pretty obvious, but come on, OTO, you could make this so much easier. In the detailed demo, I'm going to go through all of the different settings along the bottom here and take you through almost everything. I'm not going to go for the crazy sounds and all of the different things it can do. I'm more focusing this demo on guitar players. This is a pretty expensive piece of kit. I think they're retailing over £400, and so it's got to live up to a lot. Okay, having said all of that, let's go and do some knob tweaking and go through all of the settings and listen to the sounds of this delay pedal. Digital delay that this will do. Now I've got the mix and feedback set deliberately long. Let's just give it another go. Now, the first thing I'd say about this is this has got a pleasing, gentle sound, but clearly there's not much going on here. This is a digital delay. I think the 12-bit nature of the sound just makes it sound a little bit softer and a tiny bit less hi-fi. Now, going back to the overall interface, you'll notice there is no foot switch in front on the front of this, and the only way to turn it on and off is with this button. Of course, if you're a guitar player, you're going to have to use MIDI if you want to turn it on and off with your foot. Okay, let's just experiment a little bit with each of these controls and see where we can take this delay. So first of all, let's just increase the modulation. I don't know if you agree with me, but that is pretty crazy. Remember, the depth is just a crack open. Let's just try and see if we can get it back to what I would call a sensible guitar player's level. Personally, I think that's about as far as you can go without going into seasick territory. I can tell you some of the presets, which we'll go through in a bit, just to show you what this box of tricks can do. Go absolutely mental in terms of modulation. Okay, I know what you want to know is, what do these buttons do down here? The user interface is quirky to say the least. It's okay, but it's a bit of a hipster user interface. So first of all, each one of these buttons has got two sets of text on it. You tap it once, and the LED is displaying what's happening on the first piece of text, that is division. If I tap it again, the LED flashes to say this is what's happening on range. If I tap it again, it turns off and the display goes back to the signal level. So first of all, let's run through these. Of course, this is on and off. We've already discussed that. By the way, here's my clean tone. I've got no reverb on at all. I've got a tiny bit of room ambience. Yeah, it's amazing how much of a great noise this thing makes. So here's a tap tempo, division and range. This is not so interesting, guys. So guys and girls, so across the top, if I turn the data button, it will change the tap tempo divisions to be dotted eighths, triplets, quarter notes, blah, 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 blah. You can look in the manual. It's really not that exciting. And now here's the range. Now, the really odd thing about the range is If I set the range to be as low as possible, it will be from 8 to 25 milliseconds. In fact, why don't we do that right now? Because what will happen is we'll be able to dial in a chorus. In fact, there's a bit of flanging. So that is a little bit of flanging. Let me just see if I can get some chorus out of it. You get the idea. Anyway, it's not really my my cup of tea. If we just go back up here and press the normal tap tempo, it will do that and get out of there. Okay, effects type. Now on this, there are 4 basic effect types. They call them normal, dual, disto, which is short for distortion, and lo-fi. There was, since the manual was published, there was a firmware update quite a long time ago now, and it's added 2 more effect types. One is reverse, and the other one is through, where you can use all of the filters and so on, but not rate and depth of the box, but without any delay. So if you like the tone of the preamp, you can just use the preamp to do something to your signal. So if we select, I'm going to do some very basic checking. We'll come back to dial this in. At the moment, oops, let's turn that down. I like a little bit of modulation, but not that. Okay, that's good. So at the moment we're on normal. If we change it to dual, in fact, nothing, what we're going to get is a multi-head delay. From my point of view, it's a bit disappointing that you can't mix this with the other 2 types, because you could get some much more smeared sounds. Let's just go over to the distortion. Now you should be able to hear straight away there's distortion in the feedback loop. Now the neat part about this is we can ramp up the input gain. So let's just take it to about halfway. Very distorted, and that's one of the nice things about this, is we can up the gain. I did have to adjust the mix a little bit, but it doesn't go into crazy self-oscillation. So let's just do that for a second. So I've just put the feedback on max. And you can hear that it just sustains forever, but without going into crazy self-oscillation. Let's put the gain up to maximum on the distortion algorithm. Just adjusting the mix, because when the gain goes up, the mix goes up. Personally, I'm not too keen on the high settings, and this whole disto algorithm doesn't really do it for me. So let's just go back to the one that I do like, which is the lo-fi. So now this one doesn't sound too different from the basic. But as we ramp up the gain, it gets a bit messier. We can take the gain all the way to the max on this. Personally, I like it about in the middle somewhere. Now we can do more with this tone. I'm going to leave this on because I think if you are interested in this box, it's not just for the straight digital delays. You're going to like something a little bit messy. So now the filters, so let's leave it on that, but we will come back and try it different ways. The filters, wow, I mean, look at this screen. It doesn't really tell you anything at all. But there are basically two filters. The one that's flashing on the left is a low pass filter. I beg your pardon. It's a high pass filter. So it cuts off low end. And the LED on the right is the low pass filter, which cuts off high end. So for example, if we want to make the tone of the repeats sound as dark as possible, what we can do is cut off the high end using this side. In fact, let me just go back to the effect type for a second and we'll put it on the cleanest one so you get the best idea. And then we can make it really thin if we cut off the bottom end. And then we can make it really high end only by just cutting off the bottom end. Now these filters are interesting, but these filters are being applied to the output of the whole delay section. The third filter, which is called feedback, is actually inside the feedback loop. So what that means is every time the feedback loop filter is applied, it applies a little bit more. Now I've got to remind myself in the manual. So at the moment, so let's set this as open as possible. So this is maximum low end, maximum high end, and then try out what the filter does. So at the moment, the filter's set flat. If we go one notch along, that's going to be low cut. You can hear that high end coming through. Next one obviously is going to be high cut. This one I like more. Now you can hear those repeats getting darker and darker as they go on. Let's just turn the mix up a little bit and the feedback a little bit longer so you can really hear that. And then finally, there's a filter on here which cuts both the low and the high, which is a classic thing that happens with analog delays. They get thinner. Now, if we go back to our effects type, and remember, we're on the hi-fi, well, what they call their kind of standard one. But if we go across here, and it is difficult to see, if we go to our lo-fi setting, you can see how these filters, now if I want to darken down my lo-fi sound, now, to me, this is where we're getting into the really nice sounds that this box of tricks can do. So it's very musical when you've got these kind of tones going on. But of course, you can set it whichever way you like. Going back to these filters, say we wanted to go for something a little bit thinner on our lo-fi sound. Can't remember which setting I've got, but let's just give that a try. Of course, I could have set the feedback filter for low cut as well. If I wanted to go really thin, I can go low and high cut and actually not only cut away the lows, but cut away the highs, and this is going to be the thinnest possible. I'm just going to reset this back so that when I show you the other things, you'll get a fuller impression. But sometimes the beauty is when a lot of these settings are set. So let's go to this final one. I'm sorry to tell you, this is you're going to say that this is a bit strange. So this is a stereo box, and normally with stereo delays, we have a whole bunch of settings in terms of how we can set them apart. Not on this box of tricks, no. OTO have decided we can't do that. So we've only got 3 ways of separating the left and right channel. So firstly, the left and right channel are currently together. The first setting we can have is a 3% offset. Now I've noticed that we're playing with this, the 3% offset is actually in the loop, so it gets bigger all of the time. So I'm not denying that's a really nice sound. What it's basically doing is offsetting the left and right by 3% against each other, and it's giving you, of course, a little bit of chaos and a lot of stereo space. And hopefully you are listening to this in with headphones. Now this offset can also be set at 12%. I have no idea why it's set at 12%. I did write to the OTO people and ask them, but they didn't reply. I have to apologize. Of course, there is some reason why, which is it sets a rhythmic set of repeats between the two sides. But why exactly 12%, and why can't we set it to something else? So the final setting on the offset is 50% ping pong. So the only thing I would say against this is that it has the effect of doubling the perceived rate of the delay. But otherwise, it's just a ping pong delay. The other two LEDs on the bottom of this screen are to do with the LFO. So the LFO has got two settings. One, you can set the waveform. So that is to say, does it go up and down in a gentle wave, or is it square or triangle? Or in fact, they also have sample and hold, which is a bit more of a synthy thing. And then they have the range of speed of the LFO. But as I've already pointed out, as a guitar player, really, the rate on this absolute slowest setting is about as far as you want to go until you're doing some sort of weird special effects. Well, of course, and you're very welcome to have a play with that. And I think some of the presets, which I will show you at the end of the video, some of the presets do take advantage of that. So let's see if we can just, I must say, let's listen to that. That sounds absolutely fantastic. Let's go back to, say, a 12% offset. Now you know everything. I prefer it dark, so I'm going to go for filters here, and I'm also going to go for high cut. No, in fact, I'm going to go for high cut. And then I'm going to stick with my lo-fi. I've got about mid-gain going into my lo-fi. Oh, by the way, I did say I was going to show you the... What do you think, guys? Very Pink Floyd, right? This feedback control is absolutely great. You can switch it off, so you can get it to do self-oscillation, but
Wow. You see, what's the interesting thing about this is all of that is coming out of this because there's not much going on the rest of my gear here. Wow. Wow. It's like a heart beating. Wow. So yeah, it's got some cool sounds in here. The trouble is, it's got some great sounds, but I really recommend you're going to have to use the presets because the user interface is just about acceptable. It's okay, but it isn't super helpful. I think it's more designed for you to be, well, obviously it's designed for synth users. And so it's more designed for you to be listening to some music playing back and for you to experiment and turn the knobs interactively as you're listening to the music. And I haven't tested it like that, but it looks like it might work better like that, especially because pressing some of these back buttons, you might get into some happy accidents when you're pressing. I don't need to show you the freeze, do I? Let's just show you the freeze. That was the freeze. It's a freeze pedal. The trouble is, I don't know if you noticed, I just played a couple of notes. As soon as you've hit freeze, everything else goes dry. So you can't really layer delayed sounds one on top of the other in that sense.
Wow, there are a lot of sounds in this thing. Wow. Okay, so what do I think in conclusion about all of this? So what are the downsides? Firstly, the downsides are silly power supply requirement. The display and user interface, frankly, could be better. It's pretty hipsterish and cool, but unless you really know all of the different things, you're going to find it difficult to dial in. And even when you know, you can find it difficult to dial in because it's not quite clear. Is the dot on the third place or the fourth place or whatever, as I've said already. Good points. It can go into unlimited feedback without self-oscillating and going crazy. That's really good because you can get some fabulous, interesting sounds. Another good point is it's not very limiting in the sense that there are a lot of wacky settings that you can put in here, and perhaps just by chance they may inspire something musical. And I think the third and main point is it's a very musical sounding box. I haven't done a shootout next to my other videos, but if you've subscribed to my channel, you probably know I've looked at some pretty high-end delays on my channel. And this one has a warmth and musicality that sets it aside from all of the standard other delays. Having said that, for another £200 you could probably get a Meris LVX and it will do everything this does plus a whole ton more. At this level, at this price level, I think you have to decide that the device itself is inspiring, it suits your workflow, and after all, if you're a guitar player, your workflow's got to include MIDI because there's no way you can control this thing by your feet unless you've got a MIDI setup. But if you're more of a home player, then you need to decide whether you want something like this as an inspiration box or go for something more basic like a Strymon Timeline, which is about the same price, and some of the other delays. You know, there are loads of delays out there right now, some really good ones for not crazy money. Okay, that's it. Let me know what you think about this device, because I think it is interesting, and I wonder if Guitar Effects are going to go more in this direction with a load of wacky knobs and wacky things that we can do, rather than the traditional kind of 3-knob Neanderthal guitar player kind of things. I've come to the part of the video where I am going to say, if you like what you're seeing here, please hit the like button, and please hit the subscribe button. It really helps the channel. Leave a comment below if you found anything interesting or want to contribute to the discussion about the OTO Bim, because it is a really interesting pedal.